Okay, today we're talking about 4J, time. Now, time is a little bit different. We cannot think of time as we would decimal points because it doesn't work the same way, and I'll show you. Here's our clock. So most of the things we do like decimals is base 10. So we can do powers of 10, and we do a little bit of that with time, but so we're in sort of base 12. Everything is 12s. So a day is 12. So a day, one day, is 24 hours, and 24 hours is 2 sets of 12. And if you count all of these little minutes, 1 hour is 60 minutes. So not a multiple of 10, but it is a multiple of 12. Okay, so there's some logic to it, so let's go back to the notice booklet. So we said a minute here is 60 seconds. That we need to know. An hour is 60 minutes. Well, that's convenient. A day is 24 hours, which is 2 12s. A week is 7 days, no relation to 12. I don't know what's going on, but look, a year is 12 months. So there's a lot of 12ing going on. And all of this conversion stuff to go from days to hours, 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour, that's a base 12. That's a base 12. So just to show you that for this macro, looking at the big picture stuff, we are all in base 12. So you cannot treat it as a decimal. When we get now in more modern times, we've managed to get back to base 10. If I go 0.001, I have a 10/100,000th of a second. So we call that a millisecond. There's 1,000 milliseconds in 1 second. A microsecond that's millionths. So a microsecond, we need 1,000,000 of them for 1 second. And a nanosecond, I'm going to save you the time, is 1 billion. So a billionth of a second, we need 1 billion of those nanoseconds to make 1 second. Now, these are two of my favorite things. AM and PM, what do they actually stand for? One of them is ante, or before the meridian, which is 12, and one of them is post, which means after. So ante-meridian is before 12 o'clock, midday, and post-meridian is after. So we often use AM and PM. We can use 24-hour time. Americans sometimes call it military time, in which case we could represent 3:30 a.m. without the a.m. and call it 0330. Or 15:30, and we'll talk about how to arrive at that, is 3:30 p.m. So this is a 24-hour clock, which will go all the way up to 24, representing the post-meridian times as 12 plus the hours. So we'll look at that a little bit later. So what's the time difference here? So between 10:30 and midday. So from 10:30, so this is not 10.3. It's not. Because looking back at our clock, 10:30, here's 10, and here's 30. So we're halfway around the clock. So it's actually 10.5. 10:30 in decimals is 10.5 hours, or 10.5. So we're not going to think of it that way. We're going to count our minutes. So from 10:30 to 11 a.m. is 30 minutes. And then 11 to 11:30 we could do, but let's go right to 11 to 12 is 60 minutes, which we know is an hour. So that's a total of 90 minutes. So therefore, it's 90 minutes, or 1 1/2 hour. That counts. And what's the time difference between 8:15? I'll do the same thing. I'll go from 8:15 to 9 a.m. And looking at my clock, so from 8:15 to the next hour is going to be 45 minutes. That's equal to 3/4 of an hour, or 0.75 if you wanted to translate back, but it's safer to stick with the minutes. So that is 45 minutes. Now, counting hours, I'm going to go just to the meridian. From 9 to 12, that's 3 hours. So I'm mixing hours and minutes, so we've got to be careful. And then again, we'll go from 12 to 3, because now we're post-meridian. Let's be brave. We know that's 3 hours. Go to 3:30, and that's 3 hours and 30 minutes. So adding them all together, that gives us 6 hours. Let's keep that separate. Plus 45 minutes plus, what was it, 30 minutes. So that's a bit tricky because that gives us 75 minutes. And out of that, we already have a 60. So we'll add another hour. We'll take 60 out of that, which is 60 plus 15. And so now we've got 7 hours and 15 minutes. And finally, from 9:30 to 6:15 a.m., it's not 6.15, It's actually 6.25, 6 1/4. So 15 minutes is a quarter of 60. But let's go with what we know. So from 9:30 to 12, I'm thinking from 9:30 to 10, that's a half an hour, and 2 more hours. That's 2 hours and 30 minutes. And then from 12 to 6:15, that's obviously 6 hours and another 15 minutes. So we add them all up together. That's the time difference between the two. Now, convert these. So we're just going to use our conversion chart, 3 days into minutes. So we'll go back and look here. A day is times 24, and a minute is times 60, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, and there's 24 hours in a day. So 3 days is, let's see, 24 hours times 3, 72 hours. And then I'm going to do 72 hours. I'm not going to put them underneath each other because they're not equal to each other. Therefore, 3 days is equal to 4,320 minutes. 30 months in years. How do we get from a month to a year? There's 12 months in 1 year. So if we've got 30 months, how do we figure that out in years? So 30 months is equal to, how many sets of 12? 2 sets of 12. Because 12 times 2 is 24, and that leaves us with a remainder of, let's see, 30 minus 24, that gives us 6, and 6 months. So you could say 6 months is half a year, 2.5 years. See, once again, 6 months is half of 12, so that's 2.5, or 2 1/2 years. Finally, we want to write these in 24-hour time. To write this in 24-hour time, I'm just going to add 12 to it. Look at that, because this post-meridian is past 12. So 12 plus 4 hours and 30 minutes, because it's not a decimal. Let's see, that makes 16 hours, 30. So 1630 is equal to 4:30 post-meridian. And this one, we're going the other way. So we've got past 12 hours, so we're going to actually subtract 12 hours out of this so that we can see we're in post-meridian because we're past 12. We take 12 out of that. That leaves us with 7:45, and because it's post-meridian, we have to put that on there, or else it could be mistaken as 7:45 in the morning, ante-meridian.